Alright, this probably seems like a weird and unfair comparison.
Do you see what we did last week?
Well, I mean, as far as, we usually compare things that are similar, but the thing is, obviously there would not be a Scream without Halloween.
Correct.
It's a case of one being totally and completely inspired by the other.
Isn't Halloween in Scream?
Yeah, they're watching it.
Yeah.
And, the scene where, Randy actually pauses it when he's about to kill Bob.
Yep.
And pin him against the wall. And that's when he does the rules, with Michael standing in the background. And then the scene everybody loves where Jamie Kennedy's laying on the couch by himself watching it. And he's watching Jamie Lee Curtis. And he's saying, "No, Jamie, behind you," as the killer's coming up behind him.
So awesome.
So what I'm really saying is this isn't necessarily a battle of Halloween versus Scream so much as it is old school slasher horror versus self-aware referential horror.
Okay.
Like everything that Scream spawned, all the way to Cabin in the Woods, and everything Halloween spawned from God knows what. The thing is, the argument is, they say Halloween is 1978. In 1960, you had Peeping Tom and Psycho, which people, huge movie buffs will tell you was the start of the slasher movie.
Okay.
But and Texas Chainsaw was 74, which was before Halloween, but the slasher movie never really... When you say slasher movie, people... Only huge film buffs know what Peeping Tom is.
Yeah.
And you don't really consider... I never consider Psycho a slasher movie.
I don't either.
Only 2 people die in that movie.
Yeah.
And Norman Bates isn't exactly... We don't know how many people Norman Bates has killed, but... I wouldn't call him a serial killer, I wouldn't think.
No, I don't think so. He just likes women's clothing. No big deal.
Because he only killed Marion Crane because she pissed off my mother.
Yeah, exactly.
And he only killed Arbogast because Arbogast was, in his house.
Correct.
So yeah, when I think the original slasher movie, I think Halloween.
Okay.
And I think most people do too.
It's a fair comparison.
A critic on the back of the DVD case even says it's the alpha and omega of horror movies.
And it still holds up to this day.
Yeah. John Carpenter's career, maybe not so much, but the movie certainly.
Of course.
My first comparison will be, of course, the virgin leading ladies. Sydney and Laurie. Neve Campbell and Jamie Lee Curtis. We get a lot... I mean, the further franchise and then Zombies remakes gave us a lot more Laurie backstory than the original one does. But since I'm just sticking to the original...
You have to stick with what the original taught us.
We get a lot more backstory, and we know a lot more about Sydney than we do Laurie.
Agreed.
Laurie's almost too good to be true.
Agreed.
Despite the fact that she gets high once. She didn't even really get high. She, takes a couple of whiffs. But, she's not used to it because she can't stop coughing.
Of course.
She's the world's most perfect student. She's the world's most perfect babysitter. And she's the world's most perfect... able to stop a killer that's coming after her despite having no experience in this whatsoever.
Yes.
The scene in the classroom where she's distracted out the window and the teacher calls on her, like when a teacher tries to catch you not paying attention. But even despite catching her looking out the window, Laurie has this really elaborate, correct answer to the teacher's question that she barely heard.
More Tracy Flick.
Yeah. And,
we're going to have to review Election at some point. We bring that movie up way too much.
And every time, she's walking Tommy to school, and he's like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And she's like, okay. And, she's just willing to do everything.
True.
Even when she wants to watch The Thing, which, John Carpenter remade a few years later. He says, can we just make jack-o'-lanterns? And she's like, oh, sure. She's so fucking perfect, it's almost annoying.
I agree with that.
Sydney is very troubled.
Oh, yeah.
Sydney's mother was brutally murdered by her. Well, here's the thing. If you ask Kevin Williamson, and if you read, I actually have a store-bought copy of the original script. In the original script, it is led to believe that Billy and Stu were also lovers. It's interesting.
That's very strange. But not unbelievable.
They, murdered her mother and blamed it on Liev Schreiber.
Yep.
So they, she has all kinds of, she basically wants to be Laura. She wants to be the perfect everything.
Yep.
But, that's the thing, Laurie wouldn't even take a boyfriend. Like, she, they just refer to him as Ben Tramer. We never actually see this guy. But she's like, I kind of have a crush on Ben Tramer. She's like, oh my god. And then she calls her up later. She's like, I totally talked to Ben Tramer, and he wants to go out with you. And she's like, oh no, call it off. I don't want that. And she absolutely insists that she not go out with Ben Tramer after wanting to go out with him. That's how fucking perfect she is. She's not willing to do anything that might end up being something wrong. Sydney will break the rules, having, Billy sneak in the room Johnny Depp style. Literally Johnny Depp style on purpose that way.
Yeah, no lie.
He's even rocking the Johnny Depp facial hair, despite the fact that is not what he looks like in the movie. These are all publicity stills. Nobody looks like this in the movie.
No, they really don't.
Yeah, see, I think just by the way they're written, like I said, it's kind of an unfair comparison, but Sydney just has much more interesting things about her. Her character has much more emotional arcs. And,
yeah. Peaks and valleys.
Yeah. Like, she goes all hard-ass at the end, and we see her emotionally broken. We see her innocent. We see her not so innocent, she actually bangs Billy.
Yeah. And she flashes him.
She lost the game of fuck you, as Billy put it.
Yeah. That's a great line.
So yeah, I suppose, Laurie being perfect has its advantages because you don't expect her to be able to stand up to Michael the way she does at the end because she's so perfect. Even though, it still takes Loomis to shoot him over the balcony. Still, she did not die, which she very easily could have. She went over the stairs, she got sliced in the shoulder, she got trapped in the closet, and all of this she managed to get out of. So, that's great, but...
A character like her would die first in one of these movies. Unless she was the main character.
Sydney had much more interesting things going. So, that's pretty much that. So I would say Scream gets that point. I'm not sure. I guess next we'll do the directors, which are Wes Craven versus John Carpenter.
Ooh, that's gotta be fun.
Well, here's the thing. I liked some of Wes Craven's techniques, particularly, did you hear the story of how he got Drew Barrymore to cry?
No. Yeah, I think, but I don't remember exactly what the story was.
Obviously, she's getting called over and over again, and the more she gets called, the more she starts to freak out and cry and scream. The thing is Drew Barrymore is this massive animal lover. That's like a huge known fact.
Okay.
So, Wes Craven will pull her off to the side, supposedly, and just tell her these really in-depth stories about animal abuse right before the cameras roll.
So wrong.
So, that's kind of like, there's a movie from 1930 called Skippy with Jackie Cooper.
Okay.
When he was, a child star. And Jackie Cooper actually got an Oscar nomination for the movie, but I think it's his uncle. I might have that wrong. I'm pretty sure it's his uncle. Was the director, and the guy won the Best Director Oscar. Here's the thing: is Jackie Cooper had to cry in the scene, but he couldn't. So the director took him off camera and told him that if he did not cry for this scene, he was going to shoot his dog and kill it.
Good God!
And that's how. And so he cries in the scenes.
Cue emoting.
That's kind of like, it's kind of like Wes Craven took that approach. It's brutal, but you got to get to the point.
True.
Carpenter, on the other hand, the thing that makes Halloween what it is how it is technically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, take the opening scene where it's this one long unbroken take. There might be a break in it when he puts the mask on, but you can't really tell.
True.
And it's the first shot of the movie is Michael standing outside the house, and it's from his perspective. You know, like Maniac.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And he goes into the house. He goes through the kitchen. He watches his sister with that guy. He goes to the kitchen. He opens the drawer and pulls out the knife. Goes up the stairs. Watches the boyfriend leave. Then goes up the stairs. Puts the clown mask on. And stabs her to death. Then goes outside to where his parents have just come home. And this is all one unbroken point of view shot.
Okay.
And it really, really sets the creepy mood. And it's one of those movies where you're kind of afraid it might be, like what people accuse Drive of. It blew its load in the first scene.
Okay.
But no, the whole movie is great about setting those scenes of dread.
And just Michael showing up in the middle of nowhere. You may see him out in the middle of, like, broad daylight, but it's still freaky.
The great musical cues. Like,
when
I talk about Rob Zombie movies now, he does not know how to do musical cues right. One of the scenes that I love is one of the best scenes in Halloween is the scene where nothing is happening. Mm-hmm. Michael is nowhere in sight. It's just Laurie and Tommy walking down the street, and they're just walking to school, and they're talking about what they're going to be doing. But the score is playing, and it's a really creepy, dread-inducing score. But nothing is happening. They're just walking to school, but it's not letting you leave that tone, even in the brightest of things. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing: is the score is playing, and then we see the Myers house when they walk by it. And a movie nowadays, especially if it was by Rob Zombie, when the camera would get to the Myers house, there would be like this loud music cue. Mm-hmm. They'd probably even make you jump.
Most likely.
It's playing this dreadful score, not dreadful, I mean dreaded setting score.
Gotcha.
When they're just walking down the street. And what happens when they get to the Myers house? Mm. The score stops and goes silent.
That's awesome. Way to set a mood.
Yes. So, there's a lot of examples of great things Carpenter does as a director. Like it's the opposite of what Rob Zombie did. It's a comparison to Scream, but I'm beating down Rob Zombie's movies. The scene I'm talking about in Halloween 2, where Michael's standing in the darkness and the music cue goes off really loudly. And he's because I didn't see him at first. I was like, well, the music cue went off, so he's got to be in here. And I'm like, oh, there he is in the dark corner. When Laurie first confronts Michael, or the other way around, really, after she sees like the bodies of her friends in the house, she's standing, and Michael is coming in the doorway, and you kind of see his face fade in from where it's coming out of the shadows. And the scene is totally silent. You're like Laurie. You don't even see him at first. And he just kind of catches your eye after a while, but you don't see it because he just silently came in, and
that's eerie.
A billion times better than anything Rob Zombie's ever done in his life. But anyway, yes. Like
zombie bashing will not commence.
Okay, let me clarify this for the people who I'm sure might be complaining. The reason I didn't compare the old Halloween to the new Halloween, which would seem like the more logical thing to do, is because the new Halloween would get no points.
And you have to have at least one win, or one potential win, in order for a versus to happen.
And like I said, this is more
old versus new slasher.
It's the old, like, what Carpenter was doing was the old school stuff, because he, practically started what was great about the slasher movie. Halloween being so fucking good is why there's so many shitty slasher movies, because everybody thinks they can do it,
and
they can't. So, like I said, there's so many scenes in Halloween I could use as examples, but as many great things, I gotta at least think of another great thing Wes Craven did to balance this out just a little bit, because I kind of went on Craven did this and this, but Carpenter is the fucking king. Let's see, how horrible is it that I'm struggling to think of a well-directed scene from Scream? Jesus.
Coming back in from the
I got it.
garage?
I got it.
With Tatum and the...
Close. The scene in the Jeep.
Okay.
That's a really good scene.
Agreed.
When she gets into Dewey's Jeep, and she's trying to drive off, but she can't find the keys. And the killer taps on the glass with a knife, and he holds up the keys. And then he disappears under the Jeep. And she assumes he's disappeared. So she gets on the radio, and she's telling them where she is. And in the background, very quietly, you can see the back of the Jeep open. And you don't see him climb in. You just see the back of the Jeep open. And then we cut back to a close-up of Neve Campbell's face, and then he comes out. And that's another great thing, is it's not... That was back... Scream was back when it wasn't the musical cues that scared you. It's when he fucking jumped out that scared you. Like the scene where she's attacked in the house, and he comes out of the closet. There's hardly a music... The music's there, but it's not...
It's not pounding you in the head.
He pops out, and then the music starts. That's the way it should be.
Agreed.
Because it should be him that's scaring you, and not the music. All of that is a credit to Craven.
True.
But having said that, Halloween is just so technically perfect as a horror movie. The point goes to Carpenter. So, wow, I spent a lot of time on director. We're almost 20 minutes in already.
Okay. Didn't realize that.
We'll go into supporting characters now.
Okay.
This one's pretty easy. There are so many characters in Scream that have their own personalities and memorable lines and great moments. You have Stu, there's Tatum, there's Randy, there's Gale, there's Dewey, Principal Hembry even, if you want to go there.
Billy.
The scene, well, I kind of already mentioned him.
Yeah.
And obviously Casey.
Yeah.
Kenny even, if you want to go that far.
Kenny.
Halloween, there's Annie and Linda are pretty much, and Sheriff Brackett are pretty much our side. Because, there's also Loomis, but there's nobody to compare Loomis to, so he's just kind of there. But he's a great character, so I wouldn't call him a side character, though. That's a problem.
He has a right to be a main character.
Yeah. But Annie and Linda are, by the way, Annie is played by Nancy Loomis.
That's funny.
And Loomis is the name of the boyfriend in Psycho. Just all kinds of Loomises in here. There's just Loomises everywhere.
And David Allen Greer was Loomis Simmons, so we'll go back to David Allen Greer from the other day.
But yeah, Annie and Linda are the main supporting characters, and they are just your average, corny, stoned teenage characters. They don't really do anything special, but, every supporting character in Scream has their own thing, particularly when they're all sitting by the fountain, in front of the fountain. They do, that one scene with the fountain, they do more with their characters than Annie and Linda. I keep forgetting their names, that's a problem.
I've never seen the first Halloween, so...
It's Linda with a Y, too.
Like Train Rider?
Yes. So, they're not terribly written. They got, good dialogue, but their characters are,
Just kind of there.
Yeah. So, obviously Scream will take that. It's actually, this will actually be a firm back and forth, oddly enough. I guess next will be the opening. This one's really tough. I haven't decided this one yet.
Ooh. Are you comparing Ghostface to the Bill Shatner mask, too?
There's not really a point, because it's what matters. What matters is what's underneath, and Michael is this silent, stalking, killing machine, and Billy and Stu are these wildly insane teenagers. It's really...
Okay.
There's not really, much to do there.
Gotcha.
So, you have the opening I talked about with the point of view shot, and you have the opening with Casey.
Yep.
The opening with... Well, the thing is Halloween establishes its opening, the whole movie with its opening, and that opening's like maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
The opening of Scream with Casey is 12 minutes long. And it's just a matter of whether, does a lot with a little, or does a lot with a lot. Because the scene in Scream, the scene in Halloween just grabs you immediately and puts you right there. It forces you into this movie. The opening of Scream builds.
Yeah.
Because she's calm, and it's just like a wrong number. She's like, oh, okay. And then, there's the second call, and, she's a little playful and flirty, but then, she wants to let it go. And then she starts to, get a little worried. Then she starts to panic, and obviously, you watch the popcorn bag on the stove.
Yeah.
Happens. It gets more intense. It goes with the scene.
Exactly.
And by the end, it's on fire.
Yeah.
And she's outside hanging by a tree, doing an ode to Suspiria.
Right.
Oh, I don't know, man.
That's what this is about, though.
But here's the thing: is what Drew Barrymore is able to do, like, it's kind of an unfair comparison because it's basically director versus actor. It's what John Carpenter did with the opening of Halloween versus what Drew Barrymore did with the opening of Scream.
Yeah.
So,
it's fun to think on the fly, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why our videos are so long.
Yes.
All right. I don't know. I don't think I can decide. I think this one's going to be a draw.
We'll do a draw? Okay.
Okay. So, our next to last category is the most memorable kills. This one's also pretty easy. Halloween doesn't get too creative. I mean, it does a little bit because the most memorable kill of the movie is Bob, the guy that gets pinned to the wall, which is the scene that Randy pauses on to say the rules. The kills in Scream are interesting because not only do they kill Casey and Steve, but they gut them and they hang Casey by a tree and they put her liver in the mailbox.
Yes.
Next to her spleen and her pancreas. And we don't get to see it, but apparently they hung Principal Henry by the goalpost on the football field.
Yep.
They slice Kenny's throat and then throw him on the van and try to kill Gail that way.
Take him in the garage door opener.
Yeah.
God, that's insane.
That was improvising.
It's awesome.
But yeah, the kills in Halloween are either stabbings or stranglings. Like Linda gets strangled with the phone cord, but it's an interesting step. The kills, I guess it goes in with the kills about the build-up to them as well. Because the build-up to the kill is more important than the kill in a horror movie.
That makes sense.
Everybody loves Linda's build-up. Linda's build-up is really famous, where after he's killed Bob, he takes off Bob's glasses and he puts a sheet over himself and then puts the glasses on.
I've seen that, yeah.
And he comes in and she thinks it's Bob. So she, what they call in Scream the obligatory tit shot.
Yeah.
PJ Souls brings the sheet down and shows her tits, and he comes in and she's calling Laurie, but then Michael comes up behind her and we don't ever see that it's Michael. We just know. But then he comes up behind her and strangles her with the phone cord, and as she's fighting for it, she pulls off the sheet and Michael's revealed. And then she dies. So in execution, it's memorable. They're all memorable. But I'd say, I suppose Scream has the advantage because they have more, blood and guts and technique than Carpenter had to work with. They're almost 20 years apart. But I'd say most memorable kills would go to Scream, particularly for Casey Becker, even if it was just an homage to Suspiria. Still. So yeah, what's that put it at now?
I'm keeping track.
Okay, it's... If you count the draw, Scream has 3 and Halloween has 2.
There is no draw. I don't count the draw. I make it even.
Okay, so Scream has 2 and Halloween has 1.
Okay.
Okay, well, the last category is obviously the most important. Which one is scarier?
Okay.
This one's also pretty easy, which is going to cause problems in a second. Scream is very gruesome. Not as gruesome as it's let on.
Yeah.
Like, the build-up to it, like, if you hear people talk about it, it's a lot more, like, let me clarify the MPAA here. Strong graphic horror violence and gore.
No.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not.
How gruesome as it is, even when I first saw it, I was never really scared by Scream. The scene with Casey Becker isn't bad, or is scary, but and I know I can't remember who it was now, but somebody I know mentioned they were scared of public bathrooms after they saw Scream.
Okay.
The scene in the school when he was hiding in the stall. But you know, I suppose they could also. I mean, caller ID was pretty prominent long after I saw Scream for the first time. So
Yep.
I suppose I was never afraid of the whole. I guess back when caller ID wasn't very popular, and you just had to answer a phone and didn't know who was on the other side, that could make Scream really scary for you.
Agreed.
So yeah, even the first time I saw it, I always loved Scream, but I was never really scared by it. Halloween, on the other hand,
You can't watch that movie in the dark, can you?
well, here's the thing. There's a lot of things in life you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm.
I won't name them, but there are things in one's life they just don't forget. Like when you hear people say, "I remember where I was and what time it was the first when Kennedy was shot," or something like that.
Yep.
Every moviegoer remembers the first time they saw Halloween. I seriously doubt anybody on Earth that has seen Halloween could not tell you the first time they saw it. I vividly remember the first time I saw Halloween. I was doing a marathon. I had never seen Halloween or Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or any of them. I even threw Leprechaun in there, and I marathoned all of them one day. And I watched Halloween first. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and Halloween stuck with me. I watched Friday the 13th for the first time, Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time, all of them. Halloween stuck with me all fucking day.
Wow.
I was probably 12, I think.
Okay.
And as you pointed out, it's something I've always pointed out about Halloween. What Michael Myers did to me when I was 12 years old and saw Halloween for the first time, I will never forgive him for. When you watch horror movies at night, you're in danger. When you hear noises in the dark, you're in danger. When it's daylight, you're perfectly safe.
Yep.
Until you've seen Halloween. Michael Myers will stalk you day or night, morning or evening.
Yeah.
You could look out your window at noon on a bright sunny day, and Michael Myers can be out there. Whether it be when Laurie looks out the window at school, or when he's standing by the fucking bush when she's walking home, or when he's out by the clotheslines when she gets home. And when he's at the fucking school, when those kids are picking on Tommy, and then the kid runs away and then runs into him. And they haven't really revealed Michael's mask yet. We just see the look on the kid's face when he sees Michael, and then he runs away. And that scene by itself is,
I think you really didn't like T.J. Hooker.
So yeah, and that's another thing. Yeah, just it all comes back to Carpenter, and I guess the script too. It's really well written to be scary too. I mean, I think the ending is very. I always thought that was really weird. I don't know if they were planning on it. Halloween 2 takes place on the same night as Halloween.
Okay.
Like this Halloween is starts in the morning and then ends at night. Halloween 2 is the rest of that night, and then it ends the next morning. That's the timeline.
Got it.
I don't know if they were ever planning that, because Halloween 2 came out like 3 years later. I always thought the ending itself and the cliffhanger ending were very rushed and just abrupt. So that's pretty much the only time I thought Halloween kind of... It's like, was that really the way you wanted to end it? I don't know.
Okay.
But, regardless, clearly Halloween is scarier, which brings us to, apparently it's a tie right now. So I just
2 and 2.
I gotta decide between the two right now.
What is this? Is this going to be a category, or are you just going to pick
I just gotta pick one.
the overall better movie?
Well, here's the thing.
Oh, boy. I do not envy you, sir.
Well, here's the thing. I have to admit, when I initially decided to do this as this segment, I had chosen Scream. But here's the thing. Scream is one of those movies I can watch over and over and over again.
Yep.
And, you know, it'll get better. Or be just as fun.
Mm.
It never gets worse. Halloween is something totally different. It's on a different level. By that, I mean, I only watch Halloween occasionally. Like, I've only seen it all the way through maybe 6 or 7 times. I've seen Scream maybe, like, 15 or 20. I don't know. I never can tell. And it's always really far apart when I watch Halloween. Like, the last time I watched it, it had been maybe 6 years since the last time I saw it all the way through.
Okay.
But the thing is you can watch Scream over and over and over again, and it stays just fine. Halloween is one of those things where whenever I watch... I guess it's because... I don't know if it's to keep it fresh. I don't know if it would get worse, or is why I watch it so far apart, but Halloween is one of those movies where it kind of saddens me when I watch it. Because Halloween is one of those few movies where every time you watch it, you wish you were seeing it for the first time. Because there's just nothing like seeing Halloween for the first time.
Mm.
It happens once and it will never happen again unless, you know, you hit your head and get amnesia. The second, I'm going to leave somebody a note, and it says, if I happen to, like, fall on my head one day and I can't remember anything, show me Halloween. I want to experience the first time seeing Halloween one more time at least. And that is something, that's something you can't say about many movies, ever, of any genre. There's nothing like seeing it the first time, and you always wish you could see it for the first time again.
Mm.
What I would love to do one day is see it in a theater with a crowd. I think that would be the only thing that could bring me back to that.
I've never seen the movie, so that would probably be the best way for me to see it. No, never.
So, Scream is one of my favorite movies and always has been. But for this particular battle, just from the standpoint of breaking it down, you have to go to what started it all. And the reason great movies like Scream exist all comes back to the greatness that Halloween was able to accomplish. So, as somebody wisely put it, Halloween is the ultimate horror movie. Probably, you know, the as great as horror movies will ever be.
Okay.
Comes from Halloween and what Carpenter was able to do, and his co-writer. So, by not very much at all, this is probably the closest battle we're ever going to have. Halloween takes it.
Alright.
I said, I mean, that confuses some people. I can say Scream is one of my favorite movies, but say Halloween is on a greater scale in many ways. So, as you can see, and as I've represented today.
Next week? Next week will be fun.
Next week would... Oh, yeah.
As... What?
That's next. Yeah, let's just say we'll be... The weekend we see Grown-Ups, we'll be reminded of better times.
No lie.
So that's it for this.